So in this video, I'm going to show you how to do the mean, median and mode for all SQL types. So with that in mind, let's head over to my laptop. If you want to follow along, I've got the data set in the description below. And also that will take you to the data set where you can do everything that I'm going to be doing right now via data.world. Also included a notepad with all the SQL queries in as well. To get to the query page on data.world, all you need to do is go down to your data set, click on view. Once you're in the data set, make a note of what the different titles are. In this case, we're going to be using Best Actor 2010 here. If you click there, you can see the data. And then if we do query, it would automatically pick Best Actor because that is the first tab that shows up here. So then all you need to do is just add in an underscore and then 2010. And there's the table there. And if we run the query, we get the same data. So now we got the view of our data. What we can do is, if we use this as a reference, instead of using the actual table here, we can just sort this by ascending, and then that will give us our countdown here. And this will help when we're going back to reference. And then if we come back to here, we can then see the same table, but now we can move on to looking at how to create the mean. So to view the mean in SQL is very simple. All you do is use the average because mean is average. It's just a different term. And all you would want to do is just to see it is to do select and then type in average and then the column name that you want to actually get the data from. In this case, what we're going to do is look at what the mean age is for the ages of the Oscar winners in the decade 2010. And then we're going to rename it mean underscore age from the table best underscore actor underscore 2010. So to run this now, we're going to get the mean age of all 10 of those actors. And as we can see here, the mean age is 45.9. Now for the median, you're not as lucky as just having a simple function that you can just type in, put your column name in, and it will give you the result. Because median is finding the middle number, you need to be able to write a query, which you can see here. It looks complicated. It really isn't. I'll explain every single point and showing it broken down. But if we was to just run this particular query, it will give us a median age of 42.5. Now, if we go back to our data, we can see that we have ages that range from 33 to 60. If we looked at the middle, which is between 6 and 5, we can see 41 and 44. Now the difference between the bottom and there is 8, and the difference there to there is 16. So there's a big difference between the two. And median is seen as the better option to find out what the most middle point is, because if you were to say have a large amount of large numbers and only a small amount of smaller numbers, your mean would be really high, where the median actually gives you what is that middle point. And as I mentioned, it's the middle number. We don't have a middle number because we've got even numbers here. If we had 11 and another one was say like 62, then this would be our median because 6 would be in the middle. But because 6 isn't in the middle, we've got 5.5. So it's basically between those two. And to get between those two, there's 3 different. So to get to from 41 to 44, you need to add 3. Half of 3 is 1.5. You add 1.5 to 41, that gives you 42.5. Take away 1.5 from 44, that gives you 42.5. That's how you get the median. But how on earth is this giving you that result? Well, it's very clever because what it does is this section here, which I'll show you, is giving you this bit here is working out an index. So it's doing a count. So you're getting basically the row numbers here. So 1 to 10. That will create a column called R, which will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. The next column it creates called C is then looking at the count of age. So how many there are. And what it is, point here, is basically creating what the count is and sticking it across all. That is now giving you how many there are. And that's 10. So then it's going to create a column with C and then 10s in it. So if we were to just take that little section and run that query, you will see what I said. We now have all the ages with the indexing of 1 to 10 down the side. And then because the max amount of counts there are, there's 10, C has been applied. Now you might be thinking, what's the point of that? Well, that's where the second section comes in and makes this a lot easier to understand, because once you see this, the other part makes a lot more sense. And remember when I said that middle point equals 5.5 because you can't have 5, can't have 6, so the middle point is 5.5. We need to know what 5.5 is. So now we know this section creates this. What's this and what's this? This is nesting a query to give you what is called rank. And the reason is that is then creating a table which is going to be used by this part here, which is going to be called median, which is what we're going to select from here. But what this section does is it looks at this table, as you can see here, where, are, in, and if you remember, in is where it looks for only what matches the result here. So if we were just to type in and then 5 and 6, which is R here, it will just pull that information. Now we know that because we're looking at it, and that's the 2 that we would want to get in here. Because this is an even amount, there isn't a middle number. So we need to know what are the 2 closest to the middle number. And that will mean we would want to bring in 41 and 44, which you remember the result was 42.5. That's fine when we're looking at this table, but if you've got millions of rows, how are you going to sit there and then figure out, unless you ordered it and then went and looked at it? But if you wanted to create a table and then look at different ones, group them, so on and so forth, it will be such a pain to be able to pull that off. Could do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. So this is where a clever little trick using floor and ceiling to be able to figure out what that is, so it finds it for you. So all it's doing is looking at C, adding 1 and then dividing by 2. So that would be 11 divided by 2. What's that get you? Your 5.5. Problem is 5.5 doesn't exist here, and ceiling does the same. So they both equal 5.5. But floor will then go, what do I do if I round down? Oh, 5. Ceiling, what do I do if I round up? 6. And that's where you get the 5 and 6. So this cleverly filters by R to give you 5 and 6. And just to prove that's the case, we are now going to run this query. And there we go. Your 5 and 6. So remember, 5, 41, 6, 44, 41, 44. Now you still don't have the median, but that's because I'm showing you the result without the average in. So if we go back up to the original, we can see here it's got average age as the formula. And the reason why it does that is because it's worked out these 2 are the middle. Now it needs to find the average. And because the average is 41 and 44 added together and then divided by 2, we will get 42.5. If that was the middle number, so say 41 was the middle, that would be the number, because all you would have is 41 divided by 1, and that would still be the same result. And that's how that works. And the reason why I'm showing this complicated one, because if you use SQL Server, you can use the percentile contin to be able to make this a lot easier. That doesn't work in MySQL. This one works in both. I've tested it in SQL Server, I've tested it in Snowflake, I've tested it in this, and it all works. So this is a universal one that you can use, and that's why I chose this one, because it's hard to find good logic behind how this median calculation works. And this is why I want to spend the time to explain how it works, so you get an understanding of how it's broken out. And also, now you know, if you've never used floor or ceiling before, or over, or how to get indexing, you know how to do indexing now. So now we can move on to mode. And as you can see, mode is not that hard and not as complicated as median, because the great thing about mode in SQL is all you want to be able to do is create a table, group it, order by the highest count of what the group is, and that will give you your result. And because of that, you want to then limit by 1, because that will show you the highest one. However, I would advise if you do this first without the limit, and the reason being is mode can give you the highest, but if you've got more than 1, it will just pick 1. So if you wanted to look at what the max count of something, it might show up more than once. So a good example here is, for here we only have 2, so we can see 41 is in there twice, all the others show up once. So if we was just to run this now, we would see 41 at the top with 2, and all the rest is 1. If we were to add limit 1, this would give you your result. And how that works is by simply looking at, here's the age as mode age, which is here, and then we get an account of how many times that number shows up, and then we're just grouping by age, and then we're using count and then the star, because then we're just going to be doing the actual count, and then we get the highest count first by making it descending, and then we limit by 1, as I mentioned, to see the top one. But if we were to say, look at the best actor, there's quite a lot of data here. So what we probably would want to do is not go by limit 1. So if we do limit 1 with just best actor, we can see counter 6 or 45. So we would think, the highest amount of winners who were best actor in all years in the Oscars, if you're 45, you're most likely to win. However, if we were to remove the limit 1 and run again, we'll see actually there's 3. And it's just picked the highest number. And that's just because how it's ordered it. It's not ordered it in any logic, because if we see down here, you got 4s, and you got 47 and 49. It's just put them in that order. If it just randomly put 41 there, it would show you 41. If it randomly put 37, it'll be 37. So like I said, the best thing to do, always don't do the limit just first. Check to see if there's more than one, and if there is, and then you can just limit to just the top ones that you can see, which in this case we can see there's 3, and then we can just run the query, and now you have your mode for all 3 results. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to carry on your analytical journey, check out these videos over here. And as always, until next time.